Nigerian citizens who lost their lives in the Kebbi saga, down to the 5 policemen who lost their lives very recently in their efforts to secure their nation, to all those who have recently lost their lives as a result of the marathon attack by insurgents, terrorists, and bandits on schools and homes and communities in Nigeria. We collectively pray that their souls find repose in the hands of Almighty God. And we say amen.
Because when you invited Senator Abaribe to speak, you went on to reinforce the sentiments expressed by Senator Abaribe. Abaribe is not of APC. And so any attempt by anyone to distract us from what is obviously a national issue is a disservice to our collective desire to stand firm together and find a solution to what is clearly a national problem that has been there for over 20 years. Mr. President, I am not ashamed to affirm that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing his best.
Correct.
He's doing his best. That we have not yet there doesn't mean that he has done anything knowingly, whether by negligence or lack of interest. Under your leadership, Mr. President, you have encouraged us to approve not once, not twice, special supplementary budget to support our armed forces, arising from the request of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Those requests were not meant for the armed forces to buy ice cream. It wasn't meant for them to do tobola in military nightclubs. They are meant to strengthen the armed forces, to re-equip them, to give them access to acquire modern technology, and to train, and even now, directive to recruit more men and women into the armed forces. Therefore, there can be no question that President Tinubu is doing his best. In moments like this, the devil can come in and make us so confused that we might turn against ourselves and then, by default, allow the enemy to behave as if he's happy at an upper hand. However, what I think we should do, which under your leadership, even in your statement, you have already encouraged us to come up with such suggestion, is in the light of what we now know, what can we begin to do differently and contribute those ideas to support the executive initiative? One there, for example, is, and you amplified it, even in greater details than any one of us in this house, when you revisited the statement by the governor of Kebbi State. Nigerians are entitled to know, and it is no longer national secret, the commander of that area who ordered that those men be withdrawn. It is to be a national secret to be kept within military cycle. Nigeria should know the name, and the person should be brought to justice under the Terrorist Act. Number two, Mr. President.
Is it the view of the Senate that the issue you just canvassed now, that should form part of our prayers?
Yes.
Those who support say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. That is taken. Yeah. We will form part of our prayers.
Mr.
Yes,
President, we have passed laws that impose death penalty on terrorism. This parliament is on record as having done that. Mr. President, I am troubled when, after all the efforts that security agencies and the prosecuting authorities have to invest to secure conviction, because unfortunately the state cannot behave like a mob. So you have to prosecute, follow due process. I am troubled by the conflicting judgment by various high court judges. When the law says act of terrorism, if convicted, shall attract death penalty, no judge has a right to pronounce less than that. It is only when you have implemented the law, interpret the law, not the sentiment of a judge, the will of the people as conveyed in a law, then the president can decide if there are reasons for him to do so, whether to commute or to reduce. How can an offense that carries death penalty, a judge reduce it to 20 years in prison? That is not acceptable. But he has violated the laws passed by the parliament. Number three, sir, and this will be the last.
Has that happened in Nigeria already?
It has.
That
somebody convicted of terrorism was sentenced to 20 years in prison.
No.
Pardon?
No.
What was it?
No.
Can I be allowed to land?
The civil senator, you have,
Mr. President, that is the leader of Assad. They call them, they have a group.
You have 30 seconds.
A terrorist group called Assad.
You have 30 seconds to land, but please be guided.
Okay.
Let's concentrate on the issue in discussion.
I will be guided, because we have to look at a holistic solution. Because these are sentiments that confuses our people. For example, somebody allegedly kills someone who came to attack him on his farm. And because he killed in self-defense, the man was sentenced to death. But there is no evidence that those who have come to attack farmers and kill farmers, there is no evidence that they have been so convicted, sentenced to death. These are some of the issues we have to deal with, so that nobody is given any excuse to misunderstand what is clearly a national challenge. I believe that President Tinubu inherited a situation that was already so complicated that no one of us, if we were to become president, can decree insecurity out of existence overnight. But we can begin to mobilize discernible action. We can begin to re-examine some of the discontent, but also call on the security chiefs. I am sure my colleagues here, you listen. When the chief of defense staff said there is what they call war economy. That is to say, there are officers who may well be making money from this crisis. And that is why the issue of accountability, even on the part of the armed forces, is now a requirement that our relevant committees should be able to work on and ensure that we do not have saboteurs in the army or those who don't want the crisis to end, such that, we keep appropriating money, people are getting richer, and more Nigerians are being wasted. But I conclude by saying, all of us must commend the president for what he has been doing. If you see his face on television, you know that the president is not sleeping. What we need is our collective wisdom to reinforce his own limited wisdom, because nobody has monopoly of wisdom, so that together we can find a holistic solution. This situation calls for national unity. It calls for collaboration. We must not talk as Christians or as Muslims. We must not talk as Northerners or Southerners, Easterners or Westerners. It's a national challenge, and we need a national solution. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. And please.
Yesterday, you will recall, Mr. President, that out of concern, I raised this issue with you, and you said this motion was being considered. So I'm happy that the deputy leader has brought this. But let me observe, just as the way Senator Abaribe also touched on that briefly. Please, this is one of the most trying periods that our country is facing. Even in battle times, in war times, it's not easy to lose a brigadier general. It's not easy to lose a brigadier general. Even in battle times, it's not easy to see this mass of communities being displaced, harassed, taken hostage, and people killed in several parts of our country. Our democracy, right before our eyes, is being rubbished. Our country, right before our eyes, is losing prestige and respect, and is endangered by the day. So this is a very serious motion. And I want to briefly object to the way and manner some of the comments from the other side have been on this very serious issue. This is the Senate of the Federal Republic.
Sorry,
no,
please.
I'm coming. Let me make my views, please.
You learn, but which other side? There's only
No.
There's only one side now.
The mover of the motion. I'm coming. Before I say, please. The mover of the motion talked about.
This one, Senator Dixon. You have not noticed that your microphone is off. The reason is that your time is up. Can I guide you? Can I guide you? If you want to conclude your speech, be guided from the chair. The reality is that this affects all of us. So there's nothing like this side or that side.
We are being told every day to be patriotic. We are being told here that we shouldn't say anything against. We are being told that, oh, you shouldn't talk about the past. You should focus on the present. Yet, on this floor, rather than focus on what we're supposed to talk about, we go back to say, oh, during 2015, oh, the Chibok girls happened, and oh, we are now rescuing people. People were not rescued at that time. During Chibok, 17 local governments in Katsina were not having parleys with bandits. People in Kebbi were not leaving all the rural areas and coming to only the urban areas to stay. People in Niger were not being kidnapped. So why do we need to? At any time we need to talk about the present issues of today. We go back to start to look for excuse for our failures of today. I only want to say, let us do the right thing. We're not blaming this government for what they are finding itself, but it is the government in power, and they should do the right thing. What are the right things? We take only one example. The governor of Kebbi said that somebody ordered troops out and people were kidnapped. Till today, nobody in Nigeria knows what happened. And no question has been asked. And we are sitting down here as a parliament, and we turn and we talk. Yet, somebody is responsible. If I'm the commander-in-chief, I will call the army commander in that place and the head of the army and say, if you don't get me the head of this person, who withdrew the troops to put all these children in jeopardy? Then you make an example of him. That is how a country is run. A country is not run on pacification. A country is run on confronting issues. I rest my case.
That's our reality. And in a situation like this, the leadership of the country needs every possible support from all citizens. It is also time for unity. And let me say, Mr. President, that our armed forces are doing their best.
Senator Zam, approach the chair.
They are doing their best with the little funds and resources available to them. Mr. President, very soon we'll pass the budget for 2026. I will urge this Senate, and indeed the entire government, to ensure that we continue to improve on the resources available to our armed forces. And then we insist on value for money. Give them targets, set targets and timeframes. But we must continue to give them more and more resources and make them more accountable and transparent. Mr. President, this administration, since 2023, has continued to give more and more resources to the armed forces and other security agencies. And this is because the National Assembly has been supportive too, because we need to approve it before it is finally made available to the armed forces. We should do that, and I want us to remember that today we get more revenues into the coffers of the federal government of Nigeria, and indeed, across the country, the states too. Why can't we invest more out of these revenues that accrue to us? Because the security of lives and property, everyone knows, is the fundamental reason why a government exists. And no investor, even a local domestic investor, will invest comfortably in a country where the security is compromised. Talk less of foreign direct investments. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we don't need to go to any part of the world to beg anybody to come to Nigeria to invest if we secure our country. Why? We are over 200 million. That's a huge and massive market for any product. And in fact, we excel everywhere in the world. Our challenges are within our country. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, we can continue to buy arms and ammunition and platforms from other countries, but that is not the way to go in the long run, because we bought the Super Tucanos. What happened? So the sensors that we needed on those Super Tucanos were not made available. We have therefore every reason to devote so much resources and make the right policies and legislations for DICON, the Defense Industries Corporation of Nigeria, based in Kaduna, to function. The president, when he came into office, the DICON Act was one of the first acts he signed. And today, we have some companies that have to do with defense industries trying to come into Nigeria. We have to encourage them. We have to provide the enabling environment through legislation and right policies for them to stay and produce those kind of arms and ammunition and platforms that we require in our country. They will be cheaper, they'll be more available. Sometimes when we even pay for the purchase in other countries, what will come to us in 1 month could be there for 3 months, or 3 years rather. Why? Politics. Mr. President, so far, the situation in the last 1 month in Nigeria is tense, is tough, and requires full support, complete and total support for the leadership of this country to lead and fight and win against the insurgency and banditry in the country. But one of our colleagues said, this is not to be left to government alone or to our armed forces alone. Citizens have roles to play, but we need to give the citizens the courage to reveal information and protect such citizens who volunteer information. Thank you very much for the privilege to speak.